People of Reddit, have you ever dated a celebrity? If so, how did it go? What's the story? I went on 2 dates with Emilia Clarke about 5 to 6 years ago. Really witty. And really sweet. Things didn't work out between us, obviously, but God, I wish they did. Was seeing Hannah Murray, Gilly, GOT or Cassie, Skins, for a while around 10 years or so ago, just when season 2 of Skins came out. Turns out a girl I worked with knew her, I fancied her, and so we orchestrated a meeting between us. She organized a coffee with her, and I just so happened to stumble into the cafe. We hit it off and we ended up having a little thing for 5 months or so. We went to the cinema, ate and drank. She is highly intelligent, very perceptive and really quite funny. I was young and rubbish at dating, and I'm guessing she wasn't too experienced either. In the end, she called me one day after a week of silence and dumped me because she was going to uni. Fair enough. I'm super happy for her and think she's a great actress. My brother briefly dated/hung around Hayden Panettiere right after her first Disney movie came out, Tiger Cruise. It was one of my favorites at the time, before Heroes or anything. Apparently she had family who had a lake house in our hometown and they met at a party and started to hang out when she would visit her family. She even came to the Strawberry Festival with me and my brother, mind you, I'm 10 years younger so I was like 7 or 8 at the time, and was really nice to me because I was so awestruck to be meeting a Disney actress. She even made a DIY candle with me at a festival booth that I kept for years afterward. Nicest girl he ever introduced me to, second only to his later fiancée. I dated Dickie Betts many years ago. He was unfailingly thoughtful and kind. He was going through a crazy overindulging in drugs and alcohol phase, but somehow never forgot to make sure I felt safe and taken care of. He assigned me a roadie to make sure I was taken care of while he was on stage. Once he had a bit of a breakdown and started destroying a hotel room. When he saw I was getting worried, he picked me up and carried me to the door of the suite, then called the road manager to come get me. He walked barefoot across broken glass with me in his arms. My friend turned down Jennifer Connelly. In the mid-80s she spent the summers in a small town on Long Island. This was after she was in The Labyrinth but before The Rocketeer. Parents were friends somehow so she would hang out with a local circle of friends. One evening she asked him to go on a walk, he said no. He is still made fun of it to this day. She was very nice by all accounts. One of my best friends dated Miley Cyrus, then Destiny Cyrus, back in middle school. We all went to the same elementary school then started middle school together. Mind you, this is all before Hannah Montana was created. Back then her and her brother, Trace Cyrus, of Metro Station fame, were just Billy Ray Cyrus's kids, which didn't mean much to us back then. They dated for all of our 6th grade year until she moved to Toronto, I believe, to start pre-production on a Disney show, which we would later find out to be Hannah Montana. He wasn't too beat up about it as he described her as being kinda crazy. One story I remember is that after a mutual friend of theirs was broken up with by her boyfriend, Miley tried to get my friend to make out with her to cheer her up, which he refused to do. Also, after the show came out and her face was all over Tiger Beat and 17 magazine, we would rip out the pictures of her, cut a hole in the mouth, hold them up to our face and chase him around saying, "I miss you, come to Hollywood and be with me." We probably could have been a little nicer about it. My mum turned down Brad Pitt in a bar in Ireland. He had just landed his role in Thelma and Louise, so was only really known for his Levi ad, but my mum didn't know who he was. He asked to buy her a drink and she declined. He told her about being the Levi model and she awkwardly declined again. She really regrets it now. Oh, and she turned him down because he had really bad acne, which she feels bad about now, but she was 19 at the time. Dated Pink in high school. The quotation marks cause I was a moron in high school, and even though I really liked her I didn't really know how to go about things right. So I was sort of a bad kid in high school, and even though CB West was a big school, everyone pretty much had some idea of who everyone was. Being a dipshit sort of became mine, and oddly enough it never hurt my chances with girls. Think some of them weirdly were into it. Well, Alicia was pretty much the female version of me. When I got called to the principal office to get my detention for whatever dumb shit I had done the day before, she was almost always there too. That's how we even really struck up convo. So I asked her to hang out finally, and basically I tried to play the badass role and just smoke some weed with her and assumed she would just be into me. Didn't work at all. Only lasted a few weeks of what amounted to after school hanging out and a few times taking her out to eat. But nothing more. We even got sent to an alternative school around the same time for troubled teens. She barely went before she kind of vanished. Years later, when she was a star, she hit me up on FB once, briefly had a convo, and that was it. Knew a guy that would go on dates with Christina Aguilera back around 1999 to 2000. This was right around when Genie in a Bottle broke out. Apparently she would call him at all hours of the day and expect him to drop whatever he was doing to respond or come to her place. She dressed him and gave him things, pretty much treated him like a kept man. He might have been bullshitting me, but it lines up with everything I've heard about CA from the people that knew her. He eventually broke things off from her and she didn't handle that very well. She would get wasted and drunk dial him. I dated Kristen Bell in high school. Her mom still tells me she wanted to marry me back then. She was super funny and basically looked the same as she does now. She doesn't seem to age. She broke up with me on New Year's Eve, then hooked up with some dude that night, allegedly. No hard feelings, we were friends after, and I'm super happy for her success. She's not famous, but she has an Emmy. Does that count? I was in really rough place after a bad breakup, and my ex's best friend took pity on me and played wing woman of the century and set me up with Kate. Honestly, it wasn't really a relationship, just a short fling with tons of great sex. She was gorgeous and way out of my league, but we had a fun time before she moved on. I googled her years later and it turns out she's found a successful niche in Hollywood and won an Emmy for a show I like watch, so that's nice. 10/10 great experience, would recommend. I dated a woman who is currently a regular on CW's Riverdale. We dated some years ago when she was younger. She was a fairly successful model and actor at the time, even more so now clearly. We met while working on the same television show and I asked her out. Didn't expect her to say yes as she was way out of my league. But she did, and we hung out for a month or so. She eventually went back home and we tried long distance for a few weeks before deciding that it wouldn't work. We've talked once or twice over the years, but she is firmly in a different social strata now. Overall, she was very nice and fairly intelligent, but very focused on being an actor/model and didn't really know any other lifestyle. Edit. I know everyone is probably annoyed that I don't say the name of the person in question, but I don't know, it feels kinda wrong. Edit 2, fine. It was Tiara Scoveby. Might as well add a bit more detail.